Welcome to Light Boxes, a football show. I'm your host, Rob Ballantine. On this channel, my goal is to help you think outside the box about the NFL. And today, I'm digging into three extremely intriguing matchups that'll be happening in Week 2. Week 1, if you read too much into it, it can tell you a lot of lies. But instead, I'm going to look at the questions that Week 1 posed and see which games in Week 2 might be able to answer those questions quickly. So let's dive in. Game 1 I'm going to highlight is Eagles at Chiefs, 4:25 Eastern on Fox. Specifically, I'm looking at the matchup between the Eagles passing attack and the back seven of the Chiefs defense. The back seven, they did not play well in prime time against the Chargers in Week 1. Now, the Chargers offense could just be a really good unit. They've got some good receivers that complement each other's skill sets. The running game is still taking shape. Justin Herbert's a really good quarterback. But the Chiefs did look especially bad. They were giving up so much separation. And again, you will give up separation to receivers as good as Ladd McConkey and Keenan Allen at running routes. But much more worrisome was the body language of the Chiefs defenders when they gave up wide open catches. I get it, you would be frustrated, but early in the second quarter, you could already see Chiefs players throwing their hands up, shrugging their shoulders, looking perplexed at how easy the Chargers had it on offense in their passing game. It could be that we could chalk this bad body language and bad communication up to being tired from the travel to go to play this game in Brazil. Maybe that's it, because this is a Super Bowl caliber unit. However, this was alarming, and they got to play better. It was easy to pick on a couple weak points for the Chargers offense. They spent a lot of time throwing Shamari Connor's direction. The safety gave up 7 catches for an average of 14 yards per catch. And linebacker Nick Bolton. They completely abused Bolton for 5 catches, also 14 yards a catch. There's one play very early, I think it was Quentin Johnston's first catch, where he receives the ball and just completely turns the corner on Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton had no juice to squeeze the angle, even with another defender there who was blocked out of the play. It was just tough to watch Nick Bolton look average compared to the other athletes on the field. So that's scary. And the Eagles' passing attack is going to abuse Bolton if they can. However, they didn't demonstrate an ability to in their game against the Cowboys last Thursday night. It was well documented that A.J. Brown only got 1 target for 1 catch really late in the game. But the Cowboys just in general were playing nice man coverage, and they were taking away Jalen Hurts' first read. The communication was there. The Cowboys held Jalen Hurts to an average depth of target of 4.5 yards, which was the second lowest in Week 1, only ahead of Jared Goff. Every other quarterback in the league had more success pushing the ball downfield. And that lid on the Eagles' offense definitely kept the Cowboys in the game. Now, of course, they were conceding way too many scrambles to Jalen Hurts, and that was an issue all the way up until the lightning delay. I don't expect the Chiefs to play in such a diametric way, just like we're going to play sticky man coverage but let you have those scrambles at will. They're going to be more balanced. Steve Spagnuolo is a better defensive coordinator than Matt Eberflus, but they can't use Nick Bolton as a spy. Clearly, that is not going to work against Jalen Hurts. He doesn't have the speed. So they're going to have to come up with another way to keep Jalen Hurts in the pocket, force him to make tight window throws, which the Eagles have not yet proven able to do this season. Of course, A.J. Brown is going to play way better than he did in Week 1. He's going to get some chances. The squeaky wheel gets the grease in this position. But I'm still very curious to see if the Eagles' passing attack can get off the ground against a Chiefs secondary that looked discombobulated, or if the Chiefs' back seven is going to tighten up under their good coaching staff the way they have in seasons past. Game 2. The Broncos at the Colts, 4:05 Eastern on CBS. One big question from Week 1 is whether this Colts offense is actually real. One aspect about it is absolutely real, and that's tight end Tyler Warren. This game against the Dolphins was a coming out party for the rookie. He was PFF's highest graded tight end, full stop. That includes receiving work, blocking work, all of it. He had 7 catches for 76 yards, as well as a rushing attempt. It only went for 3 yards, but we can already see him being worked into the offense in similar ways as to how he was used at Penn State. The Colts put 33 points up on the Dolphins in Week 1, and Tyler Warren's utility to the offense is a big reason why. But they only had 3 touchdown drives and 4 field goal drives, so it's not quite as dominant a performance as the score may indicate. Plus, the Dolphins' offense just couldn't stay on the field, so the Colts were getting good field position and they were going up against a Dolphins defense that was gassed as a result. They just couldn't hang. The Broncos' defense should provide a much better test. But top linebacker Dre Greenlaw missed Week 1 and he still hasn't practiced as of the time I'm recording this video. That means linebackers Justin Stranad and Alex Singleton, they're going to have to take some coverage snaps against Warren, and that represents a huge mismatch from a separation perspective. If the Broncos instead elect to use slot cornerback Jaquan McMillian or the rookie Jahdae Barron, that's probably giving up too much size to Warren, so there's trade-offs all around. Maybe they could use safety Talanoa Hufanga. Coverage isn't his specialty, but he might be a good mix of size and speed to at least be a roadblock to Warren in some ways. And they really could get crazy and put reigning Defensive Player of the Year Pat Surtain on him. I don't really see them doing that often, but maybe in key spots along third down or two, we could see Surtain on Warren just to take away the safety blanket for Daniel Jones. The Broncos are going to win plenty of the matchups against the Colts offense, so the Colts need Warren to be an engine if they're going to have success. This Broncos defense is tough. However, they are missing their best coverage player to negate Tyler Warren, and so how the Broncos elect to defend Warren, it's going to be fascinating to watch. Game 3 is one of the Monday Night Football matchups this week. Buccaneers at Texans, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. The Texans' offensive line was a big question mark coming into this season, and its performance against the Rams in Week 1 raises even bigger red flags. The offensive line, it seemed like the dam broke at all of the most inopportune times, and it kept the Texans' offense off schedule and led to a measly 9-point performance on the road in LA. The rookie right tackle Arronte out of Minnesota had a really tough first outing, giving up 1 sack and 5 total pressures. The sack and 4 of those pressures, they came on true pass sets. Now, it's to be understood that a second-round pick might struggle coming out of the gate, but it still doesn't bode well for this Texans team's hopes of contending this year. He needs to come along quickly. Things go from bad to worse with center Jake Andrews suffering a high ankle sprain late into this game, so he won't be there for Week 2. It's going to be backup Jarrett Patterson starting in his place. But this offensive line had to take on a Rams defensive line with a huge reputation, and that unit delivered. 4 of their defensive linemen had a pass rush win percentage of over 15%. Their star edge rusher, Jared Verse, he got to 28%. He was on the short list of Defensive Player of the Year candidates coming into the season, and he's still on it now after this performance. The Buccaneers' defensive line isn't nearly as deep as that of the Rams, and their star, Hassan Reddick, isn't as lethal as Jared Verse. The Buccaneers only had 2 players eclipse a 15% pass rush win rate in their game against the Falcons. The Bucs did very little to address the depth issues on their defensive line this offseason, not in free agency, not in the draft, and that sneaky may be starting to show up already. If the Texans' offensive line can figure out a way to neutralize Reddick, then the rest of the unit might not have enough firepower to take advantage of the weak points on the Texans' O-line. Of course, Todd Bowles will blitz a lot, and it's going to be incumbent on the running backs and the tight ends to recognize those things and provide help where it's needed, so there's still other ways the Bucs can take advantage. But at least now the Texans are playing at home. So they're going to have the advantage of being able to use funky snap counts to keep the defensive line off balance, keep the Bucs from timing their pass rush as well. And the Texans O-line needs every advantage it can get. So I'm really interested to watch this matchup, and it'll probably tell us a lot about how realistic these teams can feel about contending in 2025. Those are the games I'm most excited to watch and the matchups within them that I'll be most focused on. But there's a ton of good games this week. I'd love to hear what you're interested in watching most this week. Drop it in the comments for me. Also, it would mean a lot if you like the video and subscribe to this channel. Doing those things helps me get my NFL content out to more fans just like you. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate you being here. This was Light Boxes. I'm Rob Ballantine. and I'll see you soon.